Chosen ones, this is the last revelation God wants you to hear. In the quiet coastal town of Eldhaven, where the sea whispered secrets to the cliffs every night, lived a woman named Elara Voss. She was 34, worked night shifts at the old lighthouse museum, and carried a silence so deep that people assumed she was simply shy. But Elara wasn't shy. She was waiting for something she could neither name nor escape. For as long as she could remember, fragments of dreams had haunted her. Golden light breaking through storm clouds, a voice like rolling thunder saying, "You were marked before the foundations were laid," and always the same recurring image, a sealed scroll floating above an empty throne, glowing with words she could never quite read. She woke each time with her heart pounding and tears she couldn't explain. The world around her grew louder and darker with every passing year. Wars flickered on screens like distant lightning, neighbors turned suspicious. Hope felt like a currency no one could afford anymore. Elara watched it all from her lighthouse perch, feeling strangely detached as though she belonged to a different timeline. One winter evening, when the fog was so thick it swallowed the beam of the lighthouse, everything changed. She was alone in the tower, cataloging old maritime logs by lamplight when the storm hit without warning. Wind screamed through the cracks, rain lashed the windows like fists. Then, silence. Not the absence of sound, but a presence so heavy it pressed against her chest. The lantern flickered and died. In the perfect black, a soft golden glow appeared, not from any bulb or window, but from within the air itself. It gathered into the shape of a figure, tall, radiant, neither man nor woman, cloaked in light that hurt to look at, yet soothed like warm oil on wounded skin. "Elara Voss," the figure said. Its voice was many voices layered together, some ancient as stone, some tender as a mother's lullaby. "Do not be afraid. The time of veils is ending. This is the last revelation the Father wishes you and all the chosen to hear before the final turning." Elara fell to her knees, her mouth opened but no sound came. "You have felt it your whole life, the weight, the isolation, the sense that you were born carrying a key no one else could see. You are not broken, you are not forgotten, you are positioned." Positioned. The word echoed inside her like a bell struck in a cathedral. The figure extended a hand of light, and suddenly Elara saw, not with her eyes, but with her spirit, thousands upon thousands of others scattered across the earth. A young man in a war-torn city clutching a worn Bible in a bomb shelter, an elderly woman praying in a forgotten village chapel, a teenager in a neon-lit bedroom staring at the ceiling, whispering, "Why do I feel like I don't belong here?" Each of them glowed faintly like embers waiting for breath. "These are the chosen," the figure said, "not because you are better, not because you are perfect, but because long before time began, the Father saw the darkness that would cover the earth in these final hours, and he placed within you a measure of his own light, a light that cannot be extinguished by lies, by pain, or by the prince of this world." Elara's voice finally broke free. "Why me? I'm nobody. I hide in a lighthouse. I barely speak to anyone. I've failed at everything I've ever tried." The figure's light pulsed gently, almost like laughter mixed with compassion. "That is exactly why. The enemy seeks the proud, the visible, the powerful. But the Father hides his greatest weapons in the overlooked places, in the quiet hearts, in the ones who have been broken enough to carry no pride, only surrender." A vision unfolded before her like pages turning in a book made of fire. She saw her own life replayed, not as she remembered it, but as heaven had seen it. Every rejection was a chisel shaping her. Every lonely night was training in listening to the still, small voice. Every tear she had cried in secret had watered seeds that would bloom in the coming season. Even her doubts had been allowed, so she would never trust in her own strength, only in his. Then the vision shifted to something larger. She saw cities trembling, systems collapsing, deceptions so clever they fooled even the wise. But through the chaos moved the chosen, ordinary people with extraordinary light. They did not fight with weapons or words of anger. They simply stood. They forgave. They loved when hate was easier. They spoke truth when silence was safer. And where they stood, the darkness cracked. "This is the last revelation," the figure said solemnly, "not because the Father has run out of words, but because the hour is late. The scroll is about to be fully opened. What you do with this moment will echo into eternity." The figure reached toward her heart. Elara felt something warm and heavy placed there, like a coal from an altar. "This is your confirmation. The fire you have carried in secret is no longer hidden. From this night forward, you will know when to speak and when to be silent. You will see what others cannot. You will carry peace into rooms filled with panic. But hear this carefully, chosen one. The greatest battle is not against the darkness outside. It is against the temptation to shrink back when the light within you begins to burn brighter than the world is comfortable with." Tears streamed down Elara's face. "What do I do now?" "Obey the next small thing I ask of you. Tomorrow, when the fog lifts, go down to the harbor. Find the fisherman named Caleb who sits alone on the pier every morning. Tell him what you have seen tonight. He is also chosen. He has waited longer than you. Your words will be the spark he needs." The light began to fade. "And remember," the figure said as it dissolved into shimmering motes, "this is not the end of your story. This is the beginning of its true purpose. The Father is not finished with you. He is only now beginning to unveil what he has prepared." Then the storm returned, rain, wind, thunder, but it no longer felt threatening. It felt like applause. Elara stood slowly. The lantern flickered back to life on its own. Outside, the first gray light of dawn pierced the fog. She looked at her hands. They were ordinary, yet she felt the coal still burning quietly in her chest. Tomorrow, she would go to the harbor. Tomorrow, she would speak. And somewhere, in 1,000 other places, thousands of other chosen ones were waking up with the same fire, the same whisper, the same last revelation ringing in their spirits. You were marked before the foundations. The time is now. What you do next will decide what happens forever. The scroll was opening, and the chosen were rising. Whispers in the fog. In the shadowed embrace of Eldhaven, a coastal town where the Atlantic's relentless waves carved secrets into ancient cliffs, Elara Voss lived a life of quiet exile. At 34, she was the night curator of the Eldhaven Lighthouse Museum, a crumbling relic perched on a jagged promontory. The museum housed faded maps, rusted lanterns, and tales of ships lost to tempests, artifacts that mirrored her own fragmented existence. Elara moved through her days like a ghost, her dark hair tied back in a practical knot, her eyes deep pools of stormy gray, averting the gazes of the few tourists who wandered in. She spoke little, not out of shyness, but from a bone-deep weariness, as if words were weights she could no longer bear. Her nights were haunted by dreams that felt more like memories from another life. Golden light piercing thunderheads, a voice like the rumble of distant artillery. You were marked before the foundations were laid. And always that sealed scroll hovering above an empty throne, its edges flickering with indecipherable script. She'd awakened gasping, her sheets damp with sweat, tears tracing silent paths down her cheeks. What did it mean? Was she losing her mind, like her mother had before vanishing into the sea one stormy night years ago? The world beyond Eldhaven grew increasingly fractured. Headlines screamed of escalating conflicts, proxy wars in distant lands, cyber sieges crippling economies, and a pervasive unease that seeped into everyday life. Neighbors barricaded doors against imagined threats. Social media buzzed with conspiracy and despair. Elara observed it all from her lighthouse tower, feeling an odd detachment, as though she were a spectator in a play whose plot she alone understood was leading to an inevitable climax. One fateful winter evening, as a fog so dense it muffled the ocean's roar and enveloped the town, the storm arrived unannounced. Winds howled like banshees, rain hammered the glass panes like accusatory fingers. Elara was alone, poring over a yellowed logbook from 1897 that detailed a shipwreck where survivors claimed to have seen angels in the waves. The lantern above flickered erratically, casting elongated shadows that danced like restless spirits. Then, abruptly, silence descended. Not mere quiet, but a profound hush that pressed against her eardrums, heavy with anticipation. The lantern extinguished itself with a soft pop, plunging the tower into abyss. In that void, a golden luminescence materialized, coalescing from the ether. It formed a figure, ethereal, towering, its form shifting between masculine and feminine, cloaked in radiance that stung yet healed. Wings of light unfurled briefly, then folded away. Elara Voss, the being intoned, its voice a symphony of echoes, ancient as the earth's core, gentle as dawn's first light. Fear not, the veil's thin, the hour approaches. This is the final revelation the Eternal One imparts to you and all the chosen before the great unveiling. Elara's knees buckled, she collapsed to the cold stone floor. Her lips parted, but terror and awe stole her breath. You have sensed it since your first cry, the invisible burden, the solitude that clings like mist. You are not adrift, you are anchored in purpose. The word purpose ignited something within her, a spark long smothered. With a gesture of its luminous hand, the figure unveiled a vision. Elara's inner sight expanded, revealing a global tapestry of souls. A soldier in a ravaged Middle Eastern bunker, his rifle set aside as he clutched a tethered scripture, whispering prayers amid explosions. An indigenous elder in the Amazon rainforest, her face etched with wisdom, gazing at stars that seemed to whisper back. A corporate executive in a gleaming Tokyo skyscraper, staring out at the neon chaos, feeling an inexplicable void no promotion could fill. Each emanated a faint aura, like hidden stars awaiting the night. Behold the chosen, the figure declared, selected not for merit or flawlessness, but for the Father's foresight. In the dawn of creation, he beheld the encroaching shadows of these end times, the deceptions, the divisions, the despair, and embedded his light within you, a flame impervious to the tempests of falsehood, suffering, or the adversary's schemes. Elara found her voice, trembling. Why me? I'm invisible here. My life is a series of failures, lost jobs, broken relationships. I couldn't even save my mother. The figure's light softened, a compassionate warmth enveloped her. Precisely. The enemy hunts the exalted, the conspicuous, but the Father conceals his mightiest instruments in humility's shadows, in hearts fractured enough to eschew arrogance, yielding only to grace. A new vision enveloped her, her life rewoven through divine eyes. Her childhood abandonment, a forge tempering resilience. Her failed art school dreams, a lesson in releasing earthly ambitions. Lonely vigils in the lighthouse, sacred rehearsals for discerning the divine whisper amid worldly clamor. Doubts, permitted to ensure reliance not on self, but on the source. The panorama widened.
Cities quaked under economic collapse, institutions crumbled beneath corruption's weight, sophisticated illusions ensnared the masses, propaganda masquerading as truth, distractions numbing the soul. Yet through this maelstrom, the chosen advanced, not as conquerors with swords, but as beacons. A teacher in an overcrowded classroom offering kindness to a troubled child, a doctor in a pandemic ward praying silently over patients, a hacker exposing hidden injustices from a dimly lit room. Where they acted, fissures appeared in the darkness, hope seeped through like dawn. This revelation is the last, not from scarcity of divine utterance, but urgency of the epic. The scroll unseals, judgments commence. Your response will resonate eternally.
Extending its hand, the figure implanted a radiant ember in her spirit, a tangible warmth, like a seraphic coal. This seals your calling. Henceforth, discernment sharpens. When to proclaim, when to withhold. Visions pierce illusions. Peace flows from you into turmoil. Yet beware, the fiercest war wages within, against the urge to dim your light when the world recoils from its brilliance. Tears cascaded. What now? Heed the immediate directive, it replied. At dawn, descend to the harbor. Seek Caleb the fisherman, solitary on the pier. Relay this encounter. He too is chosen, his wait protracted. Your testimony ignites his flame. The apparition dissolved into sparkling motes, the storm resuming its fury. But now it thrummed with vitality, like a cosmic ovation. Elara rose, the lantern reigniting unaided. Dawn's tendrils pierced the fog. Her hands, once ordinary, now pulsed with inner fire. The Fisherman's Vigil. Dawn painted the sky in hesitant pinks as Elara navigated the slick cobblestone path to the harbor. The air was crisp, salted with brine, and the faint tang of diesel from moored boats. Fishermen shouted greetings, nets mending in calloused hands. But Elara's focus narrowed to the pier's end, where a lone figure sat, rod in hand, staring at the horizon. Caleb Thorne was a weathered man of 62, his beard salt and pepper, his eyes the color of faded denim. He'd fished these waters since boyhood, but whispers in town painted him as eccentric, a widower who spoke to the sea, claiming it answered in waves and winds. He rarely sold his catch, giving most to the needy, living in a ramshackle cottage adorned with driftwood crosses. As Elara approached, he didn't turn. "Expected ya," he murmured, voice gravelly as the shore. "The gull's been chattering about a visitor all morn." She halted, startled. "How? The Lord don't send invitations without RSVP." He reeled in his line, empty hook glinting. "Sit. Tell me what he showed ya." Hesitantly, Elara recounted the vision, the figure, the chosen, the ember. Words tumbled out, unburdening her soul. Caleb listened, nodding. When she finished, tears glistened in his eyes. "Been waiting 40 years. Dreamed the same scroll as a lad. Thought I was mad. Preached once in church. They laughed me out. Been silent since, fishing for souls in prayer." He stood, joints creaking. But now, the last revelation means the trumpet's about to sound, where to gather the others. Gather? How? The light calls to light. Start small. There's a girl in town, Mira, works at the diner. She's chosen. I seen the glow in her eyes. We'll speak to her next. As they walked back, a sense of camaraderie bloomed. For the first time, Elara felt seen, not as a recluse, but as a warrior in disguise. The Chain of Light. Mira Kane was 21, a waitress with fiery red hair and a tattoo of a phoenix on her wrist, a symbol of rising from her abusive past. She served coffee with a forced smile, But at night, she journaled visions, battles in the skies, a host of warriors clad in light. When Elara and Caleb approached her after shift, Mira's eyes widened. You know about the dreams?" They shared stories over steaming mugs in her tiny apartment. Mira's revelation had come in a near-death experience, a car crash where she heard, "Rise, chosen, the hour draws near." United, the trio sought more. Through intuition, whispers from the inner fire, they found others. Dr. Elias Grant, a skeptical physician who'd seen miracles in his ER. Lena Ortiz, a librarian archiving forbidden texts of prophecy. And young Jamal Reed, a street artist whose murals depicted apocalyptic scenes he claimed were downloaded from above. Each meeting deepened their bond. They gathered in secret, in the lighthouse basement, studying ancient scriptures, sharing visions. The world outside spiraled. Natural disasters ravaged coasts, political upheavals toppled regimes, and a mysterious unity virus, a digital plague, erased dissenting voices online. Yet the chosen grew bolder. Elara, once silent, spoke at town meetings, her words carrying unnatural conviction. Caleb fed the hungry, healing ailments with prayer. Mira counseled the broken, her empathy piercing defenses. Shadows strike back. But darkness countered. Whispers turned to threats. Elara received anonymous notes, "Stop meddling or join your mother." Caleb's boat was sabotaged. Mira was stalked by shadowy figures. In a climactic vision shared among them, the figure returned. The adversary rages, knowing his time shortens. Stand firm. The last revelation is this: love conquers, but only through sacrifice. A trial came when Jamal was arrested for inciting unrest with his art. The group rallied, praying through the night. Miraculously, evidence vanished. He was freed. The unveiling. As months blurred into a year, the chosen network expanded globally, connected via encrypted messages, syncs across time zones. Signs multiplied, comets streaked, earthquakes reshaped lands, and a worldwide blackout revealed stars forming the scroll's script. In Eldhaven's lighthouse, atop the tower, the group assembled one fateful night. The figure appeared to all. The scroll opens fully. Go forth, chosen. Illuminate the dark until the king returns. Empowered, they dispersed. Elara to speak in cities, Caleb to heal in villages, Mira to inspire youth. The final revelation echoed, "You were marked for this. The light prevails." And as the world teetered on apocalypse's edge of apocalypse, pockets of light held firm, weaving a tapestry of redemption. The chosen rose, their stories intertwining into eternity's grand narrative.